All right, let's get to it. Playing something off of Equinox 3. Good morning. We're gonna wake it on up. We early today. Let's do it.
Yeah,
All right, let's
ayy,
get to it.
you know what I'm saying? We
Playing
ain't come
something
to play
off
with
of
you niggas.
Equinox 3. Good morning. We're gonna wake it. Oh, hold on. Bro, this should be throwing me off. Come on, man. Come on. Let's close this bit. Okay. Yeah, let's bring it back. Let's get it.
Ayy, you know what I'm saying? We ain't come to play with you niggas. It's the takeover for real. Yeah, ayy, we invaded, making change to generational. I can't do no waiting, that's some shit a fucking lame would do. I can't do no hating, we just burn a fucking block or two. They can't stand the rain, I brought the thunder, that's how angels do. Cutting corners, that's why they should fall apart. Yeah, I'm getting money, but I do it for the art. I can tell they faking cause they shit ain't got no heart. I just took my pain and turned that shit to Noah's Ark. Now we floating. She said she wanna ride the wave, but I'm too busy stroking her. The universe just opened up, diving in again, present tense. Why you acting like a bitch, like you scared to take a risk? I was living like I'm rich even when I was in the sticks. So much faith in my spirit, reality reflecting it. I took my passion, I'm piercing through all the fear. I persevere, I do not care if it kill me, just this body gon' disappear, but my spirit gon' live forever. My attitude changed the weather, I'm putting this shit together. My life get constantly better, my eyes see all the lies. My mind, the holy tribe, my tribe, just know we thrive. In time will change the word on my line. Yeah, we guess niggas be clicking up, beefing all over stupid stuff, all the world burning, no real purpose. My verse heal like a heart surgeon. I fuck the world, you still a virgin. They don't tell the truth, just stay virgin. World builder, I bleed gold and piss silver, this God body. We invaded, making change to generational. I can't do no waiting, that's some shit a fucking lame would do. I can't do no hating, we just burn a fucking block or two. They can't stand the rain, I brought the thunder, that's how angels do. Cutting corners, that's why they should fall apart. Yeah, I'm getting money, but I do it for the art. I can tell they faking cause they shit ain't got no heart. I just took my pain and turned that shit to Noah's Ark.
Bitch, I'm on a mission, don't got time for games. You think life a joke, I swear that shit lame. Can't fuck with no bombs, cause what I'm gon' gain. I don't do no drugs, but I stay high like a plane. I'm a great, I'm out here making plays, just like LeBron James. Where I'm at, the weakest gon' decease and the strongest gon' remain. All I gotta do is continue to be me, they gonna know my name. Gon' say lit no matter what, can't let them put out on my flame. You just sitting there doing nothing, my nigga, you should be ashamed. I'm a whole alien, I'm not the same. Cautious where I place my energy, I ain't trying to get drained. Not trying to anticipate no activities that's gon' bring me shame. Can't keep letting my towers fall, I gotta learn how to maintain. You just lost it, but you can get it back, you just gotta reclaim. I ain't tripping, I'ma get through it, trust me, I learned a lot from pain. I'm a whole alien, I'm not the same.
We invaded, making change to generational. I can't do no waiting, that's some shit a fucking lame would do. I can't do no hating, we just burn a fucking block or two. They can't stand the rain, I brought the thunder, that's how angels do. Cutting corners, that's why they should fall apart. Yeah, I'm getting money, but I do it for the art. I can tell they faking cause they shit ain't got no heart. I just took my pain and turned that shit to Noah's Ark.
Ark. What up? What up? What up? It's your boy Dave B. You watching Dave on TV, where we go beyond the everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? That was Noah's Ark off of the Equinox 3 tape. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking for my music, you can find it on Bandcamp, Dave Beyond. If you know what Bandcamp is, you know what I'm saying? Just go there, type in Dave Beyond, and you should see me pop up. Um, Also, it's some, not all my tapes, but most of them are on Apple Music and Spotify too. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta, I gotta actually switch that up though, because sometimes if you type in Dave B, you might have to type in Dave B plus the actual name of the song you're looking for. So, but to make it simple, just go to Bandcamp, find the name of the song. You can download it from there, or you can just pull up on Apple Music, you know what I'm saying, search that same name and stuff like that. But I am working on getting that more cleared up. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of things to switch up in 2025. Now, real quick before we get into the topic, if you are a student in the Each One Teach One class, we have our first class tonight later on. I am going to be sending out orientation packages. So if you haven't received yours, be on the lookout for that email along. It's going to include the Zoom link and all that good stuff. So yeah, everybody could be in class. You know what I'm saying? We getting things started. And this is kind of the tone we set and going into 2025 type shit. You know what I'm saying? Just it's a lot of shifts going on, and that's pretty much what we're going to be getting into right now. Also, if you are interested in being in the Each One Teach One class, you still got some time. You know what I'm saying? You still got some time. We're going to still have registration open. So if you haven't, sent me that email to 717conference.info@gmail.com. You know, go ahead, hit me up. E1T1 in the subject line, or if you follow me on IG, you can just send me a DM with E1T1 and I'll get you all that good information. Now, getting into the chart, this is gonna be a pretty quick live because I gotta finish up a few things on my own. But before, you know what I'm saying, just getting into this energy. So we got the moon in Cancer, we got the sun in Sagittarius. So the moon in Cancer, of course, it's the sensitivity aspect of things. You know what I'm saying? The moon is home, but now we're coming off of the energy of the full moon. So you already know that intensity, everything that we was experiencing that got to a high point, a climax during the full moon. You know, it was a lot of information being exchanged. It was a lot of things that might have thrown you off, a lot of things that might have made you confused, or you might have already been confused and you were searching for clarity and things like that. And so now, you know, we in that space of having to you know, kind of like make sense out of it. And the first thing we're trying to make sense out of is how we feel about what the information was. So it's very important that allow um we don't allow ourselves, because again, I was saying kind of this in the when I was talking about the full moon. You know, there's different ways we can approach this, and there's a way in which we take the kind of, I look at it more like the immature route, where you feel a certain way and you let those feelings consume you, and then now all of a sudden, instead of being the um initiator of of what you do in life, instead you're letting yourself be led by how you feel. So when you let your feelings take the reins, again, this leads you to react to things in a very you know, it can be very drastic, it could be very extreme, especially with this energy. Because one thing about the relationship between Cancer and Sag. So Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, right? And Cancer energy being related to the moon, being involved in feelings and emotions, and Sagittarius having that Jupiterian nature. Basically, this is a time in which everything we feel at the moment could be extremely expanded. And the moon just left Jupiter. So we are already off of this emotional high where we, again, the things on your mind are going to seem a lot bigger than what they actually might be. You know, you might be faced, everybody, I feel like everybody at this point on some level of life, right? Whatever level of life you on or whatever you're going through, you're faced with a decision, and that decision is basically you in the middle of, okay, do I succumb to these feelings and allow them to prevent me from doing what I need to do, or do I want to just go forward and fully separate from those things that are being called to address? And I say separation, it doesn't necessarily have to be separation, but we in the fall time, we at the tail end of the fall time where the sun is going through the third decan, and we had that full moon in the third decan of Gemini. So the third decan of any energy is kind of signifying the need for you know, a sense of putting something to death, you know what I'm saying, putting something to rest, and allowing yourself to switch up, you know what I'm saying, allowing yourself to, and by switch up, I just mean because you could still keep the same things in your life, but it might be the approach in which you're going about things that needs to change. You know what I'm saying? Something is being encouraged to change. Something is being kind of, you're being signaled to change something up. You know, something's gotta give, and it's either going to be you, or it's going to be something external that seems like it's an external thing's fault, but it's really your fault because you didn't act on it early enough. And so, you know, this is kind of the tone we going into 2025 with, where, you know, in a lot of ways you could look at it as, oh man, all things are falling apart, but it could also be things falling into place. So this is a time, kind of like I was saying in the last live about, you know, don't listen, don't judge, and I was making a joke, but it relates to the fact that you might have to do a little, like, this is a time where even if you are going through something extremely uncomfortable, you have to observe what's actually going on. Like, what are you actually losing in the process? Because sometimes we cling on to certain things and we don't realize that we're only clinging on to it because of the fear of what we would have to do without it, which is apply a little more creativity, maybe confront certain things about ourselves or about our situation that, again, kind of come with that tough love aspect, where you're looking at yourself and you're like, damn, okay, I'm gonna have to be real about this. Because the thing is, people stay in old, outdated situations and mind states because, again, the fear of the unknown, what it would mean to switch things up, what it would mean to kind of change things. I realize y'all cannot see me. Hold on. Let me see if I can switch up. I thought I had this shit right. Hold on. Damn. Why is it tripping? Hold on real quick. Why am I not showing up? I don't know what's going on, but we just gonna rock with it. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, but for the most part, say so that's kind of what's going on for the most part is like, kind of not being able to you might have a hard time kind of coming to grips with the reality of a situation, based upon, hold on, if I stop sharing, let me see what happens. Hold on. Let me see if that works. But you might have a hard time kind of coming to grips with the reality of a situation. And the thing about it is, it's like when it comes to your emotional state, how you feel about things, it's like you might have to the moon in Cancer, the good thing about it is that a lot of the moon in Cancer energy, I always talk about Cancer being cardinal, you know what I'm saying? And that cardinal aspect of things is like, okay, if the cardinal aspect of things that allows you that space to initiate a new way to feel and deal with your emotions in a certain time. You know what I'm saying? To deal with different emotions. Cancer is like, okay, if I'm initiating a different way to feel, the power is really in your hands. You know what I'm saying? You can change how you feel about certain things. It's kind of like this. You might not be able to control things outside you that affect how you feel, but you can control how you respond to things. And so the power is really in the response, right? Even when it comes to Cancer's energy of comfort and things like that, right? You might not be comfortable with things you can't control outside of you, but that's not where your power is. Your power is in your ability to be yourself and say, okay, no matter what ends up affecting me from the external world, I can control how I respond to it. Even though it might be uncomfortable, I can initiate a new feeling internally to make me uncomfortable or be able to accept the difficult aspects of whatever I might be going through. So this is the type of mental state that can help you kind of realign yourself to be more comfortable and get more, balance and clarity on, whatever you might be experiencing at the moment. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. So this is why in the title I put emotional awareness expansion or entrapment, because in the same breath, everything that you try to do that is working to kind of create that new comfort, right? Depending on how you want to go about it, you could allow yourself to you could put yourself in a state where um you entrap yourself, because it's like, think about this. If you're on the lower octave end of this energy and say these emotions again, you're more so on the side of not responding but instead reacting to certain things because of your level of uncomfort or discomfort, and not really knowing how to deal and manage these emotions. Then guess what ends up happening is you can trap yourself in that reality. You can trap yourself in that space where now, because of your sensitivity and you're allowing your insecurities to speak for you, you put yourself at a disadvantage. You put yourself in a space where you're not actually allowing yourself to grow. Part of what we're going through at this moment, again, this shift is an extreme, it's a lot of us being stretched in different ways. You know what I'm saying? Us having to kind of go through a lot more of a internal kind of realization, or an internal, I don't want to call it a battle, but I guess it kind of is a battle. You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of internal things that we have to address. And you know what I'm saying? You said, did it start long ago? Not too long. What's up, Pedro? Not too long. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes ago. Um, but so with the moon in Cancer, that's what's happening. The moon in Cancer is just our sensitivity. And so coming off the full moon, we might be, not knowing how to feel about all the information we either got, the information we didn't get, what became clear. Because sometimes, see, things are what they are, right? When you're looking at it, I like to look at things from three different angles, right? It's what it is, what it ain't, and what it could be, right? And sometimes, you know what I'm saying, like this is just my way of looking at things, right? How you look at it, it's got to be up to you. This is, this is just me and my life, my science, how I came to understand different aspects and angles for myself, right? So I look at things from three angles, right? Three sides. I'll be like, okay, it is what it is, and this is what it's not, and this is what it could have been, or what not could have been, but what it could be, the potential of it, right? So a lot of times, the reason I look at it from those three angles is because, when you going through different experiences, what you see right in front of you is telling you what the logic is. It's like the logic is right in front of you. It's like this is what it looks like. But sometimes, in order to really understand what something is, you have to also compare it to the duality. And you got to look at what it's not. And when you're looking at what something is not, this helps you it kind of inverts your thinking and allows you kind of more space to see the difference between what you're looking at and what you might be imagining something to be. And then from that space, I create the what it could be. So this is the space I give things for them to develop into new things, right? Because sometimes you might be looking at something for what it is. If you get stuck on what it is, then you might not have the creativity to kind of create change or to initiate a new angle on how to approach something. You might get stuck and stagnant in that one way. If you're not looking at something what it's not, you might be too positive, too optimistic, and not allow yourself the actual real balance of looking at the negative sides of something and saying, you know what, but this isn't doing X, Y, and Z. And so the looking at something for what it's not helps you kind of understand the negative aspect of what it is. And this with this balance, again, it just helps you understand the potential of what something could be. And in that potential, it's like when you're looking at your own life, you always have the ability or the opportunity to change and switch things up to make things better than what they are. But sometimes we get stuck into wanting things to be the way we imagined it. Again, getting stuck in expectations. I expected it to be this way. So when it turns out to not be that way, I'm devastated or I'm disappointed in things like that. Different energies that make you feel like, man, this shit was a waste of time. Or why did I invest so much energy into that? But you got to remember that at one point in time, you thought something, that thing that you might be looking at right now that might have expired, or the situation you in now that you're looking like, damn, I got to change and switch up. Allow that shit to, again, how you respond to it is way more important than the actual situation itself. Because again, there's always going to be something in life that puts you in a state of discomfort or something to make you go, damn, like why did I involve myself in that? Or why is this happening like this? Or why isn't things the way I want them to be? And the thing is, you don't get what you want. You know what I'm saying? And even in the light of getting what you deserve, part of what you deserve comes in how you navigate the conflict that you experience. And conflict is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. You know what I'm saying? And I don't say that in a depressing type way where, you got to take that and be like, oh man, life is pain and stuff. Some people be going through those types of phases in life and shit like that. But that's the thing. It's all different phases. Things, moods, feelings, all these things change as fast as the moon does. You know what I'm saying? The moon switches up every 2 days. So it's like, this is the type of stuff that you have to kind of keep in mind. And see, with the moon in Cancer, the thing about it is, like I said before, the power is in your hands to either take your emotional awareness and expand yourself, aka with the new information, everything that came from the full moon, you can now initiate a new way to feel that can allow yourself to kind of, I'm not going to say look at the bright side of things, but that again, you control the initiation of your feelings. So it's like, if you want yourself to grow from this experience that you're going through, you got to direct your feelings in that angle. And again, I'm not talking about avoiding what you feel, because if you are going through something that's a lot more heavier and you find yourself on the lower octave of things, it's a matter of just, again, feel what you feel, but always remember that, okay, the moon is, or currently, look at the currents. The moon is in Cancer. So yeah, I'm going to be sensitive. Yeah, I might feel my insecurities creeping up, especially if you went through a full moon situation where you got information that you didn't like. And just because you got information you didn't like doesn't mean that you have to be unsatisfied, because the satisfaction should have came in just the fact that you got the information. So don't, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of talking about in that other video, in that other live stream, don't be biased about, you know, because sometimes you might get information you don't like and you might assume that it's all bad, but it's like, again, that information you got that you didn't like might have actually saved you. It might have saved you from something in the future. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of, sometimes how rejection be your protection type shit. That information might have helped you from committing to something or continuing on in a pathway that wasn't really actually going to be conducive of anything positive or productive in your life later down the line. See, a lot of times, again, the spirit moves differently than the human mind. The human mind can only perceive what's right in front of it. And that's why I was saying I look at things from three angles, because the spirituality of things is being able to see beyond just what the present is presenting to you. And that's even, again, any concept of God is that there in and of itself is like, yeah, whatever you're looking at with the human mind is one thing, but there's so many aspects beyond what you're looking at in reality or in the third dimension that actually are at play. And a lot of these things are rooted in how we respond to things, because what's going on in your mind, aka it's like how you assess the information. Like Mercury, the mind, works based upon what's in its proximity, what it can look at and analyze right in front of itself. That's why Mercury in the third house, and even Mercury ruling the sixth house, right? Or coming from the sixth house space. Sixth house being routine, what we can kind of predict and perfect, right? And we know nothing could be perfect, but we can put it in practice. And through practice, we can get closer to I forgot. I was like, practice makes I had wrote this down in my notes. It was like practice makes not perfect, but practice makes, I forgot what it is. Let me see. Practice makes precision. That's what it is. And when you get more precise, it's kind of like the act of making something more intentional. You know what I'm saying? Practice makes precision, not perfection. We sometimes we get lost in what perfection is and what we think it is, but the whole thing is nothing can be perfect, but things can be more precise. So that kind of is in the same vein of intention. Everything in life is really leading you to be a better version of yourself, one of a kind. And through that one of a kind, you kind of access your own unique magic, right? And through that magic, you become a better magician by the better you know yourself, the easier it is to take what's in your mind and create something in the third dimensional reality that reflects what's on your mind, what you be imagining, which is really like your superpower. But these are things that, again, you could be so into your space that you're trying to bring something that the world ain't never seen before. And that's where, even though they say there's nothing new under the sun, they're talking about the materials we have to use and translate things. But the reason we get innovation and we get new ideas from what's all under the sun that we all share, have access to, is because of what is imagined through a person's individuality in their mind, through their spirit, and their spiritual travels. And again, if you want to get into concepts like, oh, your Akashic records or footprints in the sand, whatever you call them, your ancestors or predecessors, all of that access is the thing that makes everything under the sun. It makes you see the things under the sun in a new way, in your own unique way, and then you put it together to make something new that innovates the way the world works and the way the world sees. And that innovation leads to influence. And once you got influence, this is where you start to get the starting points of creating a whole new system and things like that, right? And then again, the more you have, the more influence you have, the bigger of a community you're able to grow, or a more people, like-minded individuals that start to connect, resonate, and then add their individuality to it. And then before you know it, you created a whole system, a whole community that, again, can initiate some kind of change in the world. And the change is not, sometimes our idea of change is like, in radical ways and things like that. But sometimes change is just providing a different perspective and allowing people to kind of see that, acknowledge it, and letting it grow over time. This can become a legacy. This can become something that is a new way to go about things, but it takes time. And sometimes I think the problem with is right now is so many things that make people feel like they don't have time. And the thing is, time is like the only thing we do have. And again, when I say time is what we have, I don't mean to waste it, but I mean that you have to initiate something. It's kind of like that tape I put out where I said, got to start somewhere. A lot of those songs have been resonating with me recently, because it's like, it really is a matter of where is your starting point. Sometimes we look at how long something is going to take, and it discourages us to actually take that leap. And this kind of relates to this energy right here with the moon and Cancer. It's like the sun has been in Sagittarius for a while now. It's about to leave. So we need to figure it's like what is it? You know what I'm saying? What is it that you actually want, and where you actually going to direct things? Where are you going to move into? You know what I'm saying? And in 2020, it's like time don't stop. So you can sit there and contemplate whether you should do something or not, but time don't wait for anyone. So the time you sit waiting and contemplating and debating on whether or not should I do this or should I do that, again, that is really where the time is wasted. But if you're moving, if you're making a decision, even if you're going in a direction that you later on figure out is the wrong direction, or you got to make an adjustment to where you was going, that's still progress. And that's still stuff because all the information, experiences you got when you was going in that direction is going to lead you. It's going to, again, it's stuff that you accumulated that's helping you have more wisdom, and it's giving you different abilities. It's different things you go through when you experience things that even if you have to change directions, you still gain those abilities. You still got that skill. And again, like I said before, your real power is how you respond and navigate through life's challenges and what life throws at you, not what life throws at you to determine whether or not you're doing good or bad. And I think that's how a lot of people look at some of the spiritual shit or astrology. They're like, if I'm going through something bad, I must have did bad, or I must have, and you can start to make yourself kind of work yourself up when the reality of it is more so about how you chose to respond to whatever stimuli is being thrown at you. And that is really your power. It's more so about how you respond to things that determines kind of the trajectory of what you produce next. And that's how, even again, when you're being tested, that's exactly what's happening. You are testing yourself. The spirit is always going to create another event to expand or show where you need to contract and get things more solidified so you can move forward. But it's all about learning the lesson. So, that's just what we need to keep in mind with just in life in general. Now, getting back to just the moon being in Cancer, like I said before, coming off of this full moon in Gemini, all that information that you got, now it's about how we feel about it. And see, it's so important for us to process what it is that we emotionally process, not just think about it, but emotionally process what's been on our mind and what might have been communicated to us, right? And this is important because we need to initiate that new feeling that's going to set the tone for whatever stage we want to set when the moon gets into Leo. Because what we're going to start to see, that's going to be a fire trine, right? And that is that a grand fire trine? Yeah, technically a grand fire trine. And we now see the North Node cusping Pisces. So like right now this is that pivotal time where you might not see the change externally, but you damn sure feel it. And everything, again, that North Node, it's like whatever it is that the information we got, right, with that full moon, that was that opportunity for us to now understand more so the context of our spiritual path. And see, now that the moon is in Cancer, is squaring the North Node. So we have to come to grips with the emotional impact of what that spiritual path is like drawing us towards. Because like chances are, right? And like I said, when I do these things, this is just giving everyone. I'm doing collective shit, so not everybody gonna be in the same place in their life, right? But what some of y'all could be experiencing is a level of, again, this spiritual. You're seeing more aspects of your spiritual path. It's becoming more and more clear and apparent. And whatever information you got during this full moon, it kind of already showed you what it is. And like I was saying, what it is, what it ain't, and what it could be. So what it is what it is. You see what it is, right? And what it's not is kind of reflected through the South Node, aka any outdated relating forms of relating, relationships themselves, whether they be people, places, or things, such as ideas and feelings that you no longer can relate to because they throw your balance off. That's what it ain't. And then what the potential of what it could be is kind of like what we seeing through the sun and what we might be feeling through the moon, right? Because the moon is kind of Even though, again, when you're in a reaction mode and you're more in survival mode and you're afraid, you're moving and operating out of your fear, a lot of times the moon will kind of try to talk you out of something, but you know deep down in your heart what it is you got to do anyway. It's like sometimes you'll kind of try to go against yourself, but deep down inside, you kind of know where your intuition is pointing you. And it gets hard to decipher, but we all kind of know what, again, you kind of know the real. You kind of know the reality of it. Sometimes we still choose against that. But the thing is, with this moon square in the North Node, it's kind of like we have to learn. You're either gonna allow yourself to learn how to feel and deal with the emotions of what this spiritual path is calling you towards and moving you towards. And this is you getting, again, this is you going through the emotional, when you're going through a tough time emotionally, you can, it's two ways to do it. You either facing that emotion and processing it, and that's the real healing, is to face it head on, right? Or through your emotions, you're avoiding it. So you're allowing yourself to, this is like the avoidance side of our emotional responses to something, when something becomes too impactful to our sensitivity, and so we hide away from it, so we try to run from it, we try to avoid that feeling, we don't want to feel that way. Y'all kind of know, again, this is why I said this is either emotional awareness expansion or entrapment, because when we avoid feelings, we entrap ourselves in them. Ironically, we think we're getting away from that feeling. We don't want to feel that. So again, this is what leads people to do drugs, get lost into different desires and stuff like that, because they're trying to escape. It's like forms of escapism. And the fact that Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, this is one of the most, again, you might think escapism is a Pisces thing, but Cancer's escape as well in a different kind of way. Cancer's escape through, see, if a Cancer ever, sometimes like the Cancer energy, right, it'll throw in a feeling on you to kind of get itself off the hook. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes Cancer will do that. They'll throw a feeling because it's the initiator of a feeling, it's the cardinal feeling. So they'll throw a feeling on you like a blanket over your eyes to make you feel guilty, when sometimes they be the one in the wrong. Or sometimes they'll throw a feeling on you, or they'll make you feel something that they don't necessarily feel, for the sake of trying to redirect you in some kind of area. And then in that redirection, when you start coming around and apologizing for how they made you, they threw a feeling on you that made you feel guilty. Now you apologizing for something that now they're looking at it like they feel justified, even though deep down inside they know that they just created a scenario to get them out of something, to help them escape feeling guilty themselves. So instead of feeling, because that's kind of like the Cancer energy, and then not all cancers are like that, but lower octave aspects of Cancer is very much their form of escapism, is let me, whatever I don't want to feel, let me project onto those around me or anything outside of me, so that it can take that feeling and I can kind of get off scot free. So lower octave cancers kind of operate like that, or that lower octave aspect of Cancer can move like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, not everybody, not every Cancer is like that, but that's very much one of their things. You know what I'm saying? That's their form of escapism. So when you're thinking of this energy, this moon coming off of the full moon, you very, again, whatever that information was, you might have to sit with it a little bit, and it might trigger some emotions. It might make you feel insecure in certain areas. But with that insecurity, the better thing to do, instead of projecting it onto something else and trying to escape and run from it by throwing it onto an external person, place, or thing, is just sometimes you might have to sit with that. And I'm not going to say internalize it, but face those feelings. Understand your own inner insecurities and what might be affecting you emotionally, so you can process it. And as you process it, guess what happens? If you sit with it long enough, you'll learn how to actually um move through it, instead of trying to move around it and avoid it. When you move through it, again, now you can respond. Now you can take what you feel, and you can actually initiate a better way to feel about that, whether that's forms of you comforting yourself, whether that's you kind of, again, you can create better feelings if you face what it is that's kind of maybe triggering you at the moment. That's what people don't realize. Like, facing an emotion might make you, again, people, a lot of times the reason people don't face emotions is just because they're afraid. You know what I'm saying? They're afraid of what that might entail, to sit and actually say, oh, damn, I was wrong about that. or damn, my bad. I kind of had the wrong perception. I think I was talking about this in the last live stream. You know, that cancer aspect of things is like, you know, you're either going to try to push off and project this, or you're going to sit with it and say, damn, you know what? That information kind of showed me I was wrong about this. I really was. I really wasn't doing that right. And again, that process don't have to involve other people. You don't have to involve other people and go on a apology tour and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and be crying in people's face. Again, a lot of times people do that for the validation. Sometimes people apologize and be in people's face crying and showing their emotions and stuff like that for validation. And that's not what I'm saying at all, because that's not really healing either. Sometimes it's about really just sit with yourself. And if you can acknowledge your wrongs to yourself, that's like the first step of getting to a space in which you can, again, respond to the new stimuli in a more mature way. Again, this shift is really about who's mature and who's not spiritually. And the mature thing to do, again, is to understand, okay, let me process these things instead of using them as a tool or a weapon. Sometimes people use their emotional responses and what's going on in their mind as a weapon. You know what I'm saying? So they wear a chip on their shoulder, they come in your face and they make you feel guilty. Again, this is like that trauma that we be talking about, passed down from generation to generation, where people nobody can be real honest about what they feel. Everybody's projecting onto you. You know what I'm saying? Like from parents and things like that, uncles, aunts and stuff, blaming you for situations and shit like that. Y'all know the game. But you know, again, this is a shift that is really setting you up to start fresh with again, you got the same ability, you got similar abilities from before, but now it's like, okay, we're seeing what those abilities can do in this new time. But to get to that new time and to be able to be effective in that space, you need to be able to, again, let go of what it's not, you know what I'm saying, everything from that south node. So the things that are creating imbalance in your life. And again, remember, the south node, and you can't see the south node, but wherever the north node is, that's where the south node is at. Opposite. So the south node is still trining this Pluto energy, and it's really up on that Pluto energy for real, because Pluto's 0 degrees, and if this is 2 degrees, then that means I think what you call it. Actually, never mind, because that would mean that I think Libra would be what, 28 degrees, I think. So the South Node probably like 28 degrees Libra. But that's still a trine with that Pluto energy. And it's not a, I mean, it's not a direct trine, but y'all know them outer planets, they kind of expand big. And sometimes I look at, even if a planet is not making a direct alignment, I still look at it as being affected in some kind of way, because you know, it's the energy. So the energy of this planet is still in the same space that it trines this one, you know. But you know, sometimes the precision, it's important to know the precision and what's actually angling. But sometimes, especially with these outer planets, I generalize the energy. I'd be like, well, Pluto in the South Node, they still in cahoots based upon just the energies they in. Pluto, everything transforming, and you could look at the house Pluto's in to kind of understand more about what it is that's transforming. But Pluto, the transformation is being led by that, or I'd say the South Node. Yeah, it's kind of being led by the South Node. The South Node is just making you, it's kind of just making you extra aware of what you was using to kind of supplement or take some of the pressure off of the North Node. But the more and more we kind of connect with this North Node, being that we in the sun, I mean, we in the sun is trining it, Mercury's trining it, Mars is trining it. It's like this is kind of more heavily on our mind and more so taking the precedent over what we want to kind of. And it's kind of tricky because along with this, we do have the South Node creating that grand trine too with Jupiter, Venus, and Pluto and stuff. So it's kind of, it's just right now is that time where we're kind of deciding for ourselves what matters, and we're trying to create balance for where we're going and what we kind of are coming from. But the truth of the matter is, no matter what, it's like that North Node always going to kind of, I don't know, drag us into drag us into that new space. It's kind of like if you cling a little if you cling too much to the south node, you'll start to realize that this ain't actually helping you out in the long run. This is just what you are still kind of utilizing in the present moment for security and for safety and for you to feel grounded and things like that. But that north node is still going to drag you to where you're supposed to go. So even if you neglect the north node and try to stay in the south node, aka keep old, outdated mentalities, relationships, things that keep that you think are balancing you out, but are really not, they're really not balancing you out. They're just distracting you from what you're supposed to be focused on. And again, this is Aries energy. So we're supposed to be focused on what our individuality is saying about where we want to be at, not listening too much about what everybody around us says is best for us. We need to be more so in our own, like have your own vision about where you want to be at. And whoever resonates with that vision is the people who are gonna follow you or be around you in that next shift. But any individual who doesn't quite see it that way or doesn't see that, you have to be willing to, again, transform that in some way, put depth to that. And it becomes tricky because, again, Venus is here. So we might be like, damn, but I love that thing. But again, it's like that's a trine, Venus in the South Node. You can appreciate something, but still also acknowledge the opportunity and just what's necessary for growth. You know what I'm saying? Venus and Aquarius can make it be like, again, let's look at one of the positive things about Venus and Aquarius is the logic that it provides and the ability to understand what might need to be detached from. Aquarius, Venus and Aquarius specifically is the kings and queens of uh understanding love from afar or as a concept that, some just because you love something don't mean you have to possess it. Just because you love something, sometimes loving something is more so better to allow that space and freedom between it. So Venus and Aquarius is taking everyone's love matters and making it more logical in the sense of, hey, if this system doesn't work, then there might have to be distance in space. You know, it's kind of like look at Aquarius as a sign of friendship. You might consider Libra the sign of friendship, but it's relationship because it's more one-on-one. Gemini is more so information. You know, it's friendship, but in a lighter sense. And then Aquarius is like association, but also like long-term friendships. Friends that you don't see every day, don't talk to every day, but when y'all link up, it's the same vibe. And again, this Venus in Aquarius is not really doing anything negative. It's kind of helping things a little bit. Only thing that it can be doing that could be frustrating is it's making you realize again, it's kind of making you think about your value differently. Your value is in your individuality and your passions sometimes like basically we want to be seen and acknowledged for our passions, but our passions are kind of being not blocked. This retrograde isn't blocking your passions, but it's making you rethink your mode of operation when it comes to approaching your passions and what you are motivated to get. It's making you, it's kind of forcing you to rethink that strategy. And the closer it gets to Cancer, again, is going to kind of force you to kind of redirect that energy more internally and kind of do a lot of more internal processes to get more clear about where your actual direction and drive is going to be, directed at. But the Venus opposite that Mars energy is kind of just creating that balance of saying, hey, we still have to love ourselves as an individual first. We have to love ourselves as an individual first before anything. And loving yourself as an individual, again, is an opportunity for your North Node to make more sense. To say, you know what? It does make sense to lean into my North Node, regardless of what might have to be let go of or separated from in the process. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the gist of it. Um, don't be afraid of, don't be away of the way. Don't Don't be afraid of the way you feel. You know what I'm saying? It's that type of vibe. If y'all know that song, if you know, you know. But that's the song that's coming to my mind. It's like you can't be afraid of the way you feel. Um, you know what the answer is. Like I was saying before, it's like it's right in front of you. But sometimes what you've accumulated previously looks like the only way to get to what you want. And sometimes you got to realize that, again, it's your expectation of what something's going to look like in the end that's really keeping you trapped in something that might be unhealthy, creating imbalance or not really. Again, you thought it was what it was, but it's really not that. You know, things change over time too, and you got to be willing to kind of operate and move and be fluid with change. That's just kind of the way life works in and of itself. But getting back to this moon energy, so let's get into some of the more direct alignments that the moon is making. So uh again, sextile with Uranus, again, being more comfortable with our individuality based upon what we value. Again, connecting back to values. And I think it's real interesting also the moon in conjuncts Venus. And I think that's the thing, our sensitivity and what we might be emotionally connected to that makes us feel comfortable is going to clash a little bit. Again, it's just a misunderstanding with what we should be valuing. And we should be valuing our individuality, which might look like having to give some shit some space. But because of how we're emotionally attached to certain things, we might not understand why it needs space or might not honor that space in the way we're supposed to. And that can create problems down the line because when the moon gets into Leo, that emotional attachment could be our hindrance. It could hold us back. Again, emotional entrapment, or entrapment in general. We trap ourselves in a cage based upon what we're too sensitive to respond to. We just want to keep things comfortable and stuff like that. So we're not allowing ourselves to expand. We're staying in that cage because the cage got a 4K TV. The cage got a PS5. Oh, the cage got real soft blankets. It's you in prison, but you rather stay in prison because it got soft blankets. It's still prison. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how you got to look at your life situation at the moment. Yeah, your current situation, it might feel comfortable because I've been with this person X amount of time, or I've been in this situation. I know how they move, so I can predict it. But it's like the reality of it is still prison. So you might again, it might be better for you if you just look at the outside and you step outside. You try to get comfortable with something different. Try to get comfortable with something new. You know, easier said than done because I understand all that emotional energy, but that might not actually be the best thing in the long run. You know, now the moon also is going to be trining Saturn and Neptune. So this is also the gift of um the moon being understanding a little bit more on the emotional end of restrictions and boundaries and limits that you might be facing. And it's kind of like being in that space where you're emotionally not necessarily it's like you able to more so understand once you kind of process those emotions and things like that, you can more so understand what the boundaries are, the emotional boundaries you have, and the emotional boundaries being presented to you, and maybe what you might not have access to or what might be blocking you in certain ways. Um, the moon is also trying in Neptune. So Neptune going direct, this is kind of opening our mind to the more ways to dream about things, right? And also kind of opening our opening our eyes to different illusions and stuff that we still might be in. Again, like it's almost like Neptune going direct during the same time the full moon was happening, um, kind of snapping you out of certain illusions, snapping you out of it and making you see a different side of that. Now that Neptune is going forward, and on one end, it could create a little bit more optimism about what you could do in life and things like that. But in the same end, it could also make you very aware of, damn, okay, I was wrapped up in that illusion. I was looking at that wrong. I thought that was the way it was, but it really wasn't that way. So, but the moon trining this energy is better ways to respond and feel about these things. So this is the gift to be able to look at your reality and say, you know what, I can do something with this that can make my dream make sense, or I can work with some of these restrictions. But it's kind of all in, like I said before, how you navigate kind of those feelings, how you navigate that shit. That's really gonna matter. Shout out to Gilco. It's about how you navigate that shit. That's really gonna determine whether or not it goes well for you or not. You know what I'm saying? Because this could very well be you again, avoid if you're in a space where you're trying to avoid how you feel because you don't want to feel those emotions. Maybe you feel too sensitive and you're like, man, I just can't do it right now. And a lot of that can come from this trying with Lilith. Lilith being in Scorpio again, clinging on to those biases, not wanting to change how you feel, instead allowing that sensitivity to get the best of you. So you reject all change, you reject the um facing those emotions and observing them for what they are. That could make things more harder for you in reality. So you could think things are way worse than they are based upon you just in that emotion. So, again, there's so much power in this moon in Cancer where you really have to be responsible for your emotional state. And when I say be responsible for your emotional state, I really just mean you got to be willing to direct that motherfucker in the right direction instead of allowing it to direct you. Just because you woke up in a bad mood don't mean that all is lost. Don't mean that others are to blame. Don't mean that you gotta burn this motherfucker down. Like it doesn't mean the worst, the end of the world, just because you woke up in a bad mood or you've been going through a certain time period where things ain't really in your favor. Sometimes again, we in the tail end of the fall. What better time to go through something emotional that you can look at and say, well, based upon the season, it's time to change anyway. So embrace that change, embrace what might be uncomfortable so that you can respond to it and see you'll start to realize that again, emotions pass. You feel that way today, but tomorrow, again, if you pick up the pieces, tomorrow can be a better day. But today you might have to go through some bullshit. Yeah. But it's a small price to pay to acknowledge facing a hard time head on. It's a smaller price to pay because it's kind of like that concept of suffer now or suffer later. And it's like, if you suffer now, at least you can enjoy yourself later. So if you take on and you face those emotions, you say, man, damn, I'm gonna face it head on. You could pick up the pieces and make a better tomorrow for yourself, rather than extending the process. Instead, you want to lie to yourself in the present. You don't want to face that emotion. You're trying to avoid shit. The problem with that is the suffering later part is you end up it's like there's always that underlying truth. Like if you try to avoid something instead of facing it and accepting the hard time, it's always that underlying negative feeling that's kind of that ruining whatever you're trying to avoid yourself with. So if you're trying to avoid feeling a certain way, you might again it says let's go into for some reason it's like people who do who let's say you drink a lot, you drink more than you should be, or you drink from a negative space. Aka every time something's going wrong, you stress, you pick up a drink. So you in the concept of I don't want to face that emotion. Instead, I'm gonna go drink. I'm gonna get drunk. Even though you might think, oh, I'm just gonna suffer later. I'm just gonna deal with those later. What happens is later, first of all, gets postponed. It never comes around. So you're never really healing. Instead, you're just getting by. Every time you drink to supplement and not feel those emotions you're not ready to face, even though it might seem like you're getting away with avoiding it, there's always that underlying thing in the back of your mind that reminds you, hey, you still haven't addressed this. So what happens? You start to overindulge in the thing that's helping you escape from it. And I'm using drinking as an example, but this is people do this with everything, food. You know what I'm saying? People think you know what I'm saying? He said, okay, I'll go to the gym this morning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, you can go ahead and hit the gym. Look, I'm hitting the gym too. And it's that type of shit. It's like we in that type of time too, where it's like, even on that level, like there's things that we don't be doing that we know is going to help us in the long run. And it be sitting there in the back of our mind, no matter what it is. Like I was saying, I'm using drinking as an example and dealing with an emotion. But it's like so many times we postpone this shit thinking, oh, I'll get to it later. But you got to realize there really is no later. So even if you do tell yourself, oh, I'm gonna suffer later, it's like It's still now, it's still happening now. You still got the pain with you. You might do something that'll kind of snuff out the pain, but the pain's still with you. Everything that's the trauma, whatever it is still with you in the present because the present is the only thing that really is existing. So it's like if you choose to deal with that pain now, though, you tomorrow has no choice but to be better, is what I'm saying. Like, and then if we take it in the context of the gym, if you keep saying, I want to go to the gym, I want to get healthier, wanting and later don't exist. So it's really just a fantasy, a delusion versus oh, I'm going to the gym today or I'm going now. Well, guess what? You're going to see the result. That actually exists. That actually is reality. You know what I'm saying? What up, Arta? I just seen you up in here. Shout out to J Will, JK, JL Will. You know what I'm saying? So that's my point too. Is like there is no later. So suffering later is really suffering now, but in disguise. So this is why people go through long periods of never healing, but saying they're, oh, I'm on a healing journey. I said this in the beginning of the year. I was like, this the year niggas, we gotta stop saying, oh, I'm on a healing journey. You got, and I'm not even trying to say that healing is not a process. Oh, I'm just gonna snap my fingers and be healed. I'm not even saying that. But what I'm saying is there's a difference between oh, I'm a get to that later versus saying I'm choosing to heal today. Today, and whatever fucked up feeling I might wake up in or mood I might wake up in or whatever I might face that's the hard thing to swallow right now. I'm not gonna let that turn into my story. Instead, I'm going to face that today and allow myself to put the pieces together so that tomorrow can be enjoyable, that I can say, oh no, I've healed. I've healed that. And even saying you've healed, it's like it is a process. It's not gonna happen overnight. But every time you choose to do it, do something like face that pain in the moment, every time you choose to get up and make yourself feel better in that moment, and again, making yourself feel better through actually like because one thing I observe, people don't know how to sit with uncomfortable shit. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Artie. He said, "Hell, it's getting cold. It's getting colder." Right? People don't know how to sit in the cold though. Like people don't know how to just sit with an uncomfortable feeling. And a lot of times, sitting with an uncomfortable feeling, that's like to me, it's like a lost art because sitting with an uncomfortable feeling gives you enough time to process it. When we live in a world where you could pick up your phone and forget. You could pick up your phone and kind of like stuff that feeling in the back of your mind and find a bunch of other thoughts to kind of cover up what you don't want to face. And that's what society has become. Is like constantly feeding you things to distract you from what you want to feel yourself. That's why people get involved in celebrity gossip and shit like that. That's why people want to watch the toxic TV shows and stuff because if I could watch someone going through a more fucked up situation than me, I can not only point and laugh at something else, but it takes the pressure and makes me feel better about myself. That's kind of the way in which they use entertainment. So even with the music, you know what I'm saying? It's like they convince people that the better thing to do is to um again avoid and replace your own growth with looking and being entertained by other people's lack of growth and shit like that. But you don't realize you're consuming that. So what you consume, you become subconsciously. So subconsciously you lack you in the same position as them. And that's the reason why people resonate with celebrities. Like people who only on gossip channels and shit like that is like subconsciously they see themselves as the people going through fucked up situations. And the irony is they not even going through as fucked up situations as the people they pointing and laughing at, but they subconsciously reproduce miniature versions of that in their own life, which in turn makes them drives them to need and feed more off of those mediums. You know what I'm saying? Off of that entertainment. It's a cycle and shit like that. And that's the even the concept of misery, love, and company, where you know people start to be addicted and attracted to others going through negative scenarios that are like scenarios that's more negative than them. But then because they're feeding off of that, they create more negative scenarios in their own life, which in turn makes them need more and desire more entertainment that looks like negative scenarios onto other people. It's like it's a weird thing, man. A lot of this stuff, it plays on your mind so heavily that you don't even realize what's going on. You think, oh well, even if you think you're strong enough to watch it and not be consumed by it, it's still affecting you on some level. It's like we got to be real with ourselves, you know. And I'm not saying that it's not okay. I'm not saying don't, you know, because again, we live in a toxic world. A little bit of toxicity ain't bad. You know, let's be real. You know, we still in this world and we still came here to experience things. So if you whatever you're into is what you into, and your relationship with it is your own relationship with it. Don't I'm not on no holier than thou shit, you know. But it's like, you know, we still gotta be real about how serious we take in this life, our own life. You feel me? Like how serious is you really taking your life? And where are those boundaries and restrictions at? And what are you willing to sacrifice for the sake of you being in a better space? You know what I'm saying? Because it kind of it does take a level of sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? You might have to sacrifice certain things, even if it's for a limited time. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about the balance of life too. You know, you said JL, you said that revelation hit me a couple days ago. Also, we don't have to attach stories to or fucked up mood. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. To our fucked up mood. He said sometimes we just have to let it pass and not project it or hold on to figure it out. Right. Exactly. Right. Right. And that's a good point too, because figuring it out, you're never really going to figure out what you feel. Your emotions are emotions. Your logic is logic. And I think that's what gets a lot of people fucked up and in constant loop cycles because you can't overthink about something you feel and you can't like no matter how much you think about it, it's like it's just logic is not emotion. They're two different things for a reason. And this is why even the way we assess certain things, we have to understand the separation between emotional intelligence and where our logic is. Like trying to overthink about how you feel is using the mind for the wrong things. Sometimes what you feel, you have to feel it so that you develop emotional awareness and intelligence. Developing emotional intelligence is just you being able to feel what that space is and acknowledge your space. Once you acknowledge your space, because that's the kind of crazy thing. And again, I feel for people who got. This is where, say, you got a air moon or a earth moon. Just something you might have difficulty understanding feelings and emotions, or if you lack water in your chart or lack fire, feelings and emotions, they are just that. You know what I'm saying? They are just that. So trying to practicalize an emotion, or think about a feeling, sometimes that leads you to kind of get the wrong perspective of what that feeling actually is, which makes it harder to connect. Because the more you think, and think about it like this, the more you think and try to practicalize an emotion, the more you separate yourself from connection and more so put yourself in the end of it's like you create this glass wall where we can all see how you feel, but we can't feel you, and vice versa. You can see and maybe practicalize what somebody else feel, but you can't feel them and they can't feel you. You just in a glass wall. So, you know, that's something to consider. He said, gotta adjust the mind for the current situations and shit. Right, exactly. The mind is supposed to be adaptable and changeable. Both sides of Mercury are mutable. He said, I'm all air. So that lesson is so uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah, real shit. And see, the thing is, though, the more you sit with feelings and understand them, and like, not again, I'm saying it again, understand it. It's like the more you sit with feelings, the more you realize it's like the less it becomes uncomfortable because you start to understand, like, again, that emotional awareness and intelligence starts to develop to where you just understand the separation. You know what I'm saying? Like, not that's why they say what's understood don't need to be said. Even though communication is key, and I'll be joking about that all the time because I for some reason, and I look at my chart, not to get too personal, but in my chart, like I got Lilith and Gemini in my seventh house, or it's like I don't know if in my seventh or eighth, it's like right around there. But it's like funny because I like all my whole life, everyone's like, communicate more. You don't communicate. And I'm like, how am I not communicate? Because like in my mind, I'm like, I'm saying everything I'm saying. But it's like a project. Like at this point, I'm like, no, this is a projection. Like it's part of me is like, is this a projection? And throughout my life is become this kind of constant thing, a joke with myself, if you will, where I'm like, people say communication is key, but I'm like, no, it's really about comprehension because you could talk all day, but the question is whether or not people comprehended what you said. And even as the communicator, sometimes as the communicator, you get kind of in your head about, well, if I said it, I just said it. But sometimes you have to be a good communicator. It's also being able to convey a message and get better at conveying that message itself so that it can connect with others. Like and that's where it's like communication is more so to me a two-pronged. It's like it's not just communication that's key, it's communication but also comprehension. And sometimes you be connected to people who y'all don't speak the same language. You know what I'm saying? So a person could constantly be asking you to communicate with them, but y'all might not be speaking the same language. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a more of a spiritual thing because y'all could both be speaking Spanish or both be speaking English. I'm not talking third dimension. I mean spiritually, based upon what space you in and what space they in. So, you know what I'm saying? Like comprehension is like it's kind of like how water and air always are kind of like they're right next to each other. So it's like a two-pronged process, right? They're always next to each other, but then they always in conjunct. Pisces in conjunct uh Libra, and it squares Gemini, Libra, I mean Cancer in conjunct Aquarius, and what's the other air sign? You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. It's always a square, it's a learning process or a misunderstanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, artists say vibes are one of the keys of communicating to people, right? Ain't he said of communication, but people ain't evolved like that to get the vibe, right? Exactly. It's like it's two things to it. It's a two process. It's communication, but then there's a comprehension. And like you said, comprehension is like the vibrational aspect of it. Because every time you communicate, and I'll be explaining this, I'm like, you know, the thing about communication, it's essential because it's how you create that bridge from what's in my mind that nobody knows but me, and the bridge to what's in your mind that nobody knows but you. So it's like a lot of times, again, if people who walk around communication is key, sometimes they don't have the emotional capacity to understand and comprehend. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're too much in your mind, e- even if you talk all day, like that, and that's even what I was talking about last live when I was like listening. Because sometimes listening, like especially air signs, like that airheadedness, and I'm not ragging on air signs, but this just what I'm, saying for the sake of just teaching at the moment. It's like the airheadedness comes from, if your mind is always filled with what you finna say, and you're always analyzing and breaking something down, you're not really receiving information. You're not really listening to what it is because like to listen means to sit and hold for a second. You know what I'm saying? It's to sit and hold something and interpret it. You know what I'm saying? So air being the external side of thinking, sometimes it's not thinking and considering what's being said to it. Instead, it's just trying to process so it can respond. You know what I'm saying? He said, "Yeah, I have Chiron, Gemini 8th, so I get that." And we're right. Learning Astro is like, yeah, right. Exactly. It is a Duolingo, right? Right. And see, this be like real life stuff. Like sometimes it's like in any situation. This is why also being around people has taught me, because I've been doing this stuff and associating with different individuals and stuff. And see, I'm a person, I love that aspect of what I do because I like to, again, I give everyone the space to be themselves. And so even though I might be talking about a sign in a certain way, I'm open to all signs. I love all y'all for real, for real. Like everybody has their own. Like I appreciate people for for what they are as an individual in all aspects. You know what I'm saying? Even the negative ones. I might not agree with certain things, and of course I got my limits to what, and boundaries as to what I associate with. But for the most part, weird all that weird shit aside, I fuck with people just for who they are as an individual, and it's allowed me to be, again, it's like, it's like, it's kind of just, you see different ways of how people navigate and things like that. But in all ways, we all got to understand, the better we understand what we do as an individual, is the better we can start to make ourselves more open-minded and more, because like knowing yourself allows you to also be able to be like, catch yourself like, damn, okay, I'm too much in this energy that I'm biased to. I'm too much in this vibe. I'm too much on my, what I'm saying? Like me, I know I'm more water fire based. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, let me try to at least expand myself to be able to communicate or to practicalize something. Or, let me slow down enough to make sense out of this first before I just express it, or something like that. But it's all about, like I was saying in the beginning, being more intentional, being a better magician yourself. All of this shit is magic. All of this shit is just materials that we can alchemize and use to express ourselves in the best way possible. But in order to do that, you got to know yourself first. You got to be able to observe yourself and make sense out of that. But getting back to what we was talking about though, yeah. So with communication, is really like, it's the balance between water and air. You know what I'm saying? We have to learn a little bit more about that balance, in order to kind of actually have successful communication, because, communication by itself gets real messy. If I'm just saying things and I'm not considering how individuals are comprehending it or feeling about it, this is where you get people who nobody really want to listen to, and vice versa. They're not listening. So, you know, it's different aspects to this, what I'm saying? And this is kind of how things break down, relationship wise, and with groups and stuff, and associations and all kinds of things, what I'm saying? It's both sides of that, you know. And then again, vice versa, being too much in your feelings, it prevents you from being able to communicate and convey and receive messages too. So sometimes you got to get out of your feelings and be able to receive a message without attaching so much of an emotional heaviness to it. You gotta know how to keep things light as well, and that's the water sign stuff that they fall short in, is too much comprehension, too much understanding. Sometimes you got to be able to receive information and let it go. Just be like, okay, yeah, that's a criticism, or that's what that is, and let me move on. Let's continue to adjust and things like that. So water got to learn that aspect of things. So if you're all water, you might be too sensitive to be communicated to the point where no one can tell you anything because everything hurts your feelings. And that's not healthy either. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other side of things, in which, water signs got to be accountable on that end. And I didn't forget what we was talking about. Oh yeah, okay. So the relevance of all that, right, is to because we was talking about communication. Let me see, what was we at? We was talking about communication and comprehension and things like that. I forgot what the other point is. It's gonna come back to me. But that's just important. Oh yeah, the bridge between people's minds. So, what's in your mind and what's in another individual's mind, that's your world. And communication is supposed to be the bridge between those two things. You know what I'm saying? So if we think of things more so in the concept of, only I know what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. Cause see, this is the problem. People start to get in a bag, right? When we out in the world, sometimes your ego starts to make you perceive life as if, because like, think about it, right? You walking around all day with yourself. So of course, I know y'all talk to yourselves. I talk to myself all the time, right? Especially I feel like the more spiritual you are, the more conversations, like full conversations with yourself you be having. It's crazy. But when you talking to yourself, you forget that when you're talking to yourself, you already know what's in your mind. So the conversations you have with yourself, which I like to look at as conversations you be having with God, in a sense, if you know how to kind of like, if y'all know what I'm getting at, you know what I'm saying? Conversations with God, you talking to God, you talking to yourself, right? you already know what's in your mind, so you are your own mind reader. So of course the conversations with yourself gonna be on a whole different level than you being in reality and talking to somebody who's outside of you. Sometimes we start to get so comfortable with how we talk to ourselves, especially if you spend an extended a time, or you're the type of individual who be alone a lot. And you, again, you might be amongst a bunch of people, but you know that vibe where you kind of more of a loner, or you just be more so in your own mind. And this is even more prevalent if you live in an area where not a lot of people who's on what you on spiritually you can talk to. So again, you spend majority of the time, even if you're around people, in your own space, in your own mind, especially if you're around a bunch of lower octave people, people who operate in those lower vibrations, who don't really understand themselves, don't know themselves. You got to be in your own world. Sometimes you forget that others can't read your mind, nor is it their responsibility to. So if we walk around and we keep in the back of our mind that nobody knows what the fuck is on my mind, nobody knows what I think, and nobody knows what I feel, it's my responsibility to creatively put that together and convey that as a message. I think people will be a lot better communicators, because again, people, even in relationships, people get comfortable and they assume everybody knows what I think and feel, because we walk around all day in our own head like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this, I think, and then we start to expect others to cater to those needs, especially the longer time we spend around them. We expect them to cater to things that we haven't communicated, or things that we've communicated in the past, without acknowledging that they have their own mind with their own things going on in their head that might not allow them the space to remember all the small intricate details of how I want to be catered to. So it's like the ego thing all over again, where again, too much in that ego, expecting everyone to cater to you in your mind, when you're not even, again, who the fuck is you? You know, again, you're supposed to see yourself as how you see yourself and have that confidence, but it's like, who the fuck is you? You know what I'm saying? Because you know, in that that very same scenario, and again, some people are more considerate of others, it might be, but even in that, are you being considerate so that people can consider you, or is that genuinely what you're trying to do? And also boundaries. If you know that you're the one who's considerate about another individual more than they're considering you, then you should have a certain boundary in place that again helps you ration out what you're willing to give in return for what you get. But sometimes that shit just goes too far, and people be, again, just too much in their own mind, too much in their ego, and then it'd be like, you people walk around assuming everybody's supposed to jump in their mind, because that's kind of like what I think that's what people subconsciously desire, people to come around and jump in their mind and cater to them. But it's like, you don't realize how you have to get there. If that's really what you want, you have to not only be willing to give that, but you have to establish that through time, and you have to create that. You have to be what you want to see. So if you're not going out and creating that type of environment or relationship with individuals in your life, then you can't. But as a just a general rule of thumb, we should be walking around knowing, okay, no one knows what I think and no one knows what I feel. So how would I convey this message? And that can open up a little bit more lines of connection, because then if you're vulnerable enough to be honest about what you think and feel, and trying to convey that, and you're honest in your approach, and you're genuine in your approach, that's what opens the door for vulnerability to be shared, because somebody else who resonates with that is going to be willing to meet you halfway. But they meet you halfway because they can see that bridge. And again, sometimes things get complicated, and one person is somewhere in a space where they think the other person is, and the other person's not there. So, you know, but that's not really, that's kind of for a different that's kind of a different topic and shit like that. Well, I'm gonna keep things on, because I do got some work to do. Um, I do got some work to do. So we gonna get back to it. Now, this moon in Cancer. So, um, like I was saying before, um, we got this in conjunction too with the moon and Mercury. So misunderstanding how to think about what we feel. Again, thinking and feeling is two different things. We got to start separating that. Your mind right now is in Sag. Mercury is now direct. So we still we still might not know what the fuck going on because Mercury doesn't do the best in Sagittarius, but it doesn't do terrible. It's just a different way. Anytime a planet is in a fallen sign or a sign where it falls, it's not that it's not the end of the world. It's just where it's not comfortable. So we have to get a little creative in our approach to it. Right now, our mind is on spirituality, expansion. We want to learn, you know what I'm saying? We actually do want to learn. Learning might be difficult and we might not know what to look at that's actually helpful advice versus what's not. But the good thing is through that retrograde, a lot of things that wasn't good advice kind of started to reveal itself as not being able to be applied in our own life. You know what I'm saying? That retrograde kind of it created that stop and go energy for long enough that healthfully you got to see a little bit of, oh damn, okay, that line of advice isn't actually going to lead me to where I want to go. Everything right now, especially pertaining to Mercury, think about where you want to go and where you want to take things. And you have to be honest about that. Again, you might be wanting to keep space for the things you're emotionally connected to that you think, oh, if I try to separate from this, or if I don't consider this or keep this in my life, all things might fall apart. But it's like you got to have a little bit more faith, and that faith should be directed towards the experience you actually want to have in life, and not being too concerned about what could go wrong or what you're too emotionally connected to that's creating comfort. But that comfort might be a false sense of comfort. You know, sometimes that cancer energy it'll attach to something that's creating a false sense of safety. You know, you think it's better than doing something new because it's familiar, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's that very same thing that's the reason why you can't move forward in life, and so you might have to separate and let that go. And again, we in the tail end of the fall season, right? We about to go into the winter time. So the winter time is all about kind of standing on what decision you made to let go and allowing the natural, not only death process, but through death, the rebirth. You know what I'm saying? How they say you gotta cut things off to leave space for new things to grow. So you can't get to no new space if you still holding on to things that again are just clogging up, cluttering, keeping you dragged down. Again, this is mobility time. Sagittarius, we need to be light enough to move and be mobile. So you can't have mobility if you're chained to a weight. You know what I'm saying? If you allow yourself to be chained down or in a cage, you don't have mobility. And this is where again through the moon in Cancer, that emotional awareness is either influencing you to say, you know what, I can do this, so let me create better feelings and put myself in a space where even if I'm going through uncomfortability, I can get comfortable with it because I'm on that path. Or it's going to make you say, I'm not ready yet, and I'll rather just ball up and cry in a corner, and I'm sad and I want to attach to this because this is going to make me feel good. So you in bed all day. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pull the covers off. You know what I'm saying? I know it's hard to get out of bed in the wintertime. It's cold outside. You wake up, you know, you gotta go to work, but it's almost cap season. So that means like gotta figure it out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta take them covers off. You gotta get up to it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to McCoby. Good morning to you. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is. You know what I'm saying? Good morning too. You know how they say, I remember niggas was like only say grand rising and all that shit, but you know, good morning is cool to say too, because the truth is like how they say, oh, morning is like death, but every night you go to sleep is death, and it's a metaphor for just how to even approach life. Sometimes you know, wake up, have a good morning, put death to all that shit from yesterday, and let's create something new to get our vibe right. You know what I'm saying? Every day is a new opportunity to go get it and make something beautiful out of whatever might have looked like a fucked up situation yesterday. You know, life is beautiful if you know where to look, you know, and it's not always pretty, you know what I'm saying, but it's beautiful. Like, you know what I'm saying? If y'all get what I'm saying. Life ain't always pretty and shit ain't always easy, but it's beautiful all the time. You know what I'm saying? The beauty of life is change itself. To know that, yeah, this yesterday could have looked like this, but tomorrow look like that. Or I have the ability, the willpower to make tomorrow look beautiful, to make tomorrow look like how I want it to look. That's really where the key is. Now, the moon in Cancer is also going to be, let me see what else. So yeah, that's in conjunct Mercury, in conjunct the sun. Yeah, misunderstanding how to expand into this new feeling. So don't run away from it. See, Moon squaring, is it squaring? Nah, not really. Moon in conjunct Pluto, misunderstanding how to feel about these transformations. We see death, we don't know how to feel about it, but embrace it. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of life. It's part of the life cycle. Moon in conjunction Venus, not understanding, misunderstanding how to appreciate the space and change. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh yeah, Moon squaring the North Node. I'll talk about that. Learning how to deal with our spiritual path and the feelings involved with it. Also, Moon squaring Chiron. So learning how to feel about past mistakes is kind of like coming to a resolve with a lot of mistakes. I mean, even though this energy is still going on, Chiron being in Aries, but again, Chiron and Aries sometimes it's kind of fluctuating between understanding mistakes that we made based upon being too selfish, but also mistakes that we made by not being selfish enough. You know what I'm saying? That's Chiron and Aries too. Is like, yo, you kind of undervalue yourself based upon what you didn't want to initiate or ruffle feathers about. You know what I'm saying? You kind of undervalued yourself for the sake of whatever you was relating to. Again, that South Node was in Libra. So, that might also be part of the realization and what we have to learn through the moon and Cancer to start to be like, oh, you know what? How would life be? What move would I make if I wasn't so afraid to lose what I might lose or what I've already lost? How would I be moving if I already let go of that? Or how would I be moving if I gave more, if I accepted myself more so and allowed myself to move more so in my individuality than consider everybody else involved and stuff like that. So those are the kind of vibes that could be coming off and sparking off from this energy too. Um, I was talking a little bit about these asteroids too. So, uh, Juno and Lilith creating this kind of underlying fear based upon emotional biases and things that we're still attached to that we assume might not go in our favor. We're embarrassed based upon what we might be holding on to emotionally. And so this is kind of like a signal. It's like, again, let that shit go. You know what I'm saying? You might just have to, and again, internal processes, internal things that we're feeling that just we think that because a lot of this it could be things from lack of confidence all the way to it could be forms of lack of faith or lack of believing in ourselves type shit because it's creating this kind of grand water trine. So it's the gift to emotionally understand kind of where these fears lie, and we can start to understand the longevity. And if I keep holding on to this fear, we can see the longevity, we can see where that leads to, or the lack of longevity. So instead of kind of clinging on to these fears, we should be identifying what emotional states we got to let go of completely in order for us to create a better future for ourselves. And that will, again, create better structures that we can now build on top of versus creating more restrictions, AKA, I feel too afraid. Therefore, I'm creating boundaries and restrictions on myself that don't even need to be there in the first place. Because when you're everybody's their own worst enemy. But the more and more you create blockages within yourself based upon self-doubt and clinging to certain things like needing validation and shit like that, the harder you make things in your own life that don't even need to be hard in the first place. So don't make your life hard for no reason. And again, with Neptune there, Neptune could either be your best friend based upon creating imaginations and things like that that take you out of this world to give you more energy to put back into whatever you're doing in this world, or it's gonna again drive you to delusion. So drive you further and further, be your worst enemy in the sense of you kind of having your own nightmares, you creating your own nightmares based upon you attaching too many feelings to what you don't want to happen, or attaching too many feelings to what you think might happen if this goes wrong and shit like that. So try to be be mindful of your emotional state. Like I said before, you got to be responsible about your emotional state at the moment. You can't let your emotions lead the way. Get thee behind me, you know what I'm saying? Put them motherfuckers in the back seat. What needs to be driving and leading things is more so um your logic, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. Um, it's not really like your logic. It's just it's a balance of things, but it's like don't let your feelings drive you. You know, right now, understand that our feelings are very intense at the moment, and it's not that you don't let your feelings drive you. It's more so don't let your insecurities drive you. Don't let take enough time to balance these things out and make sense out of what it is that first of all make sense out of what you want, and then apply your feelings to what you want. You know, that's kind of like what we're supposed to be doing, like the sun and the moon. Like the sun is you acknowledging and seeing what you want. That's going to give you a direction. And then you create the feelings that are going to support that direction. People a lot of times allow their sun and moon to kind of go against each other. So you want something, but you feel like you can't get it, or you feel like you don't use feelings that support the masculine energy in you. Instead, you use your feminine energy to nag, complain, distract what you want, what direction you're trying to go in life. So if you look at the masculine and feminine energy within you, a lot of times that's what people do. Instead of, we can look at this in an actual physical relationship where you get a man and the woman is constantly, from the man's perspective, nagging, distracting. Give me attention, give me attention. Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? But creating problems, right? Versus the relationship being different, where the feminine aspect supports and creates the rejuvenation for whatever that masculine energy needs in order to continue to go forward in that direction and give it strength. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing we got to realize within ourselves. Emotions can either empower you or destroy you. And that's kind of the main thing. Just like in real life, feminine aspects, you know what I'm saying? How they say, you know what I'm saying, with behind every great man is a great woman, right? But also a woman could just as easily be the man's downfall and be the reason why he went broke, be the reason why he ain't achieved nothing. You know what I'm saying? Based upon how that relationship is established. So I'm talking about that externally, but that relates to consider it internally first. That's how people destroy themselves, by not knowing how to. And it's not even about managing your emotions, but it's about understanding, first of all, what you want, and creating a direction based upon your ability to see yourself, and then see where you want to go, and then doing the best you can to create emotions that support that. And whenever you do get emotions that create conflict, being able to address that conflict, navigate it, get clarity, so that that moon could be supportive again. That's the process of life and things like that. But yeah, that's all I got. Like I said before, if you haven't already, we got the Each One Teach One class going down. First class is this is tonight, basically. So if you still want to be a part of the class, you still got time. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep registration open for this week and this week only. So if you're still interested in being a part of the Each One Teach One class, please email me at 717conference.info@gmail.com. I will get you all that sign up information. Or if you follow me on IG, I could go ahead and, just shoot me a DM, and I'll get right back to you with all the information you need so we can get this thing going. Other than that, make sure y'all check out. We just dropped another episode of the Creators on Vacation. You know what I'm saying? It was the Depth of Divine Feminine episode. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. And we have the finale dropping this Friday. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate all y'all tuning in and enjoying, what we've been kicking and things like that. Like, I mean, it's been a crazy process. So happy, that y'all have been enjoying the series, and looking forward to do much more and things like that. So also, if you're looking to be in season 2 of Creators on Vacation, shoot me an email and things like that. We have our casting call going on. So really, for our casting call, just submit a video. It don't got to be long, 1 minute montage, or just a straightforward video of you expressing who you are, showing yourself, and yeah, and then we'll go ahead and reach back out to you, and we're gonna get this shit popping. You know what I'm saying? Taking over the whole industry, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? What they say, education, politics, is it education, politics, religion, entertainment, and what's the fifth one? Yeah, entertainment, politics, uh, religion, education, and religion. I don't know. Y'all know the five pillars and stuff like that. But anyway, anyway, much love. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a beautiful day. Peace. You know what I'm saying?